Good afternoon. I want to extend a very warm welcome to students from across the University of Chicago to today's conversation with Bill Gates. As you know, Mr. Gates is co-founder and chairman of Microsoft. In July, he intends to devote the bulk of his time and energy to the work of the foundation while remaining chairman of Microsoft. In 2005, the foundation made a $6 million grant to the University of Chicago's Urban Education Initiative, which is working toward improving the quality of education for nearby children. With this grant, a university-run high school opened in the Woodlawn neighborhood. It's now in its second year, and we're delighted to have several students in the audience today from that school. Ultimately, with this grant, the university will run 4 high schools and lend its support to 16 others. I'm pleased to note that related to the GSB, Mr. Gates has entrusted the management of his portfolio as well as the foundation's portfolio to an alumnus of Chicago GSB, Michael Larson, MBA 1981. I'm likewise pleased to note that over 100 Chicago graduates currently work for Microsoft, and one of the early Microsoft employees, Vijay Vashni, MBA 1977, was instrumental in establishing PowerPoint, of course a Microsoft product, as the world's standard in presentation software. Mr. Gates will offer some remarks and I think show some visuals, and then we will have a Q&A session with 2 microphones that will be staged at the back. Mr. Gates will offer remarks on software, innovation, entrepreneurship, and giving back. Please join me in welcoming today's special guest, Bill Gates.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here in Chicago and have a chance to answer some questions and talk a bit about the future of software. University of Chicago, of course, is a world-class institution, and there's a lot of ways that there are important connections. It was mentioned some of the collaborations with the foundation on education. That's a big, big focus and something that I'm looking forward to spending more time on myself. The university also has a great connection to Microsoft in terms of joint projects and some great people that have joined Microsoft. I'll just give one example. Satya Nadella, who has perhaps one of the most challenging jobs at Microsoft. He's merely in charge of competing with Google, runs our search business. He's a graduate from the school, and we're in very good hands with the great talent and education that he received. Well, as was mentioned, I will be making a bit of a shift this summer. I'll stay quite involved in Microsoft on a few projects, but the very broad role I've had in terms of overseeing all the R&D and knowing all the projects, I'll get a chance to turn that over to some very capable people, including Craig Mundy and Ray Ozzie at the company. And what I'll get to do is spend more time on how technology can be applied to some broad needs, particularly the needs of the poorest. How it will change education, how it will change health. And so I am looking forward to that. It's the first time I've changed my focus literally since I was 17. Writing software products for Microsoft and thinking about that day and night is what I've been doing most of my life. And so as I approach this last day and this change, it's hard to imagine what that's going to be like. And so to help me out, to make sure I'm ready for it, some friends volunteered to help make a little video so that I'd be prepared. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
It is a day the industry never thought would come. Join us all day as we report on Bill Gates' last full day at Microsoft.
It's been in the planning for the past 2 years. He'll still be active as chairman, It's hard to believe it's really here. Yeah, I think Bill's ready for his last day. He's worked pretty hard, saved a little bit. He is completely focused.
I mean, Bill's been going all out for more than 30 years, so not having a completely full schedule every day has been a little, well, interesting.
Never doubt the magic of software. That's right, listen to Chewbacca.
You know, after all these years, he's finally taking work-life balance seriously. He's even got a personal trainer.
Curls.
4
Girls.
curls.
4.
Girls.
I
Things we want to beat. I am tuberculosis. Yes. Bye, tuberculosis. Yeah, headbutt. There we go. Feel yourself going back, lean a little forward. Just think high, H-I, to the sky. You and I, right now.
Yeah, Bill's always been a bit of a ham. But more importantly, it's the creative risks he takes that really set him apart.
Big pimpin', I'm Bill D. Big pimpin', yeah, you know
That's it.
me.
got it. Killed it, Billy G.
Hey, let me get one thing straight with you. You can retire and then unretire?
Exactly. Gotta keep him guessing.
Thanks, Jay.
No, it was great. Not so much. Clean break is hard, though. Somebody gotta tell him. It's horrible. Yeah. Just take that. Hello, Bill? Yeah. Bill, I'm a little busy here.
Dude, wasn't that the craziest riff you've ever heard? Oh, for
Bill, we've talked about this before. We're full up in the band.
No.
All positions are filled. I know, but I can't just replace Edge because you got a high score on Guitar Hero, Bill.
Bill's always been a big fan of movies, but he's probably gone a bit too far with this whole audition reel thing.
Yeah, Bill, I talked to Clooney. I talked to Clooney myself. I had him on the phone. I heard his voice. It was George Clooney. I helped put him in ER. I know George Clooney. It's George Clooney. Well, fine. Talk to him yourself.
I heard. No, we're just not doing an Ocean's 14. Well, no, but if we were doing one, then we would hire you. Yes, we're not doing one. Right. That's okay. No, we're not doing a sequel to Syriana either. Died.
Hey, I was thinking the last time I was on the show, I thought it was really successful.
Yeah, no, you were great on the show, man. We loved it. It was, although, you did kind of run off at the end, like I, had monkeypox. The only thing is, Bill, I never said anything, but you never gave us our mic back. And, I hate to say anything, but we only have 3. So...
No, there's never been any animosity between two of us about who's number 1, who's number 2. I haven't given a thought. So when Bill called and told me he needed some temporary office space during the transition, I was glad to help.
Working on this new malaria vaccine. The interim results.
All right, we got 1 chili cheese, 1 bacon cheese, 2 fry, 1 onion ring, 2 dilly bars, 1, I don't know. All courtesy of Mr. Buffett.
And you didn't hear this from me. It's a pretty strange coincidence that his transition date is right in the middle of the 2008 presidential campaign.
I know you're super busy, but I'm sure you're starting to think about who would be your best running mate.
No, I know I haven't actually declared a running mate yet, Bill, but I'm not sure politics is really for you.
Hey, it's Bill.
Bill Shatner of Star Trek?
No, the other Bill.
Bill Clinton?
man has a tenacious work ethic. No one is sure if he even sleeps.
I've always been a startup kind of guy, so that's my next big idea. What do you think?
Well, solar-powered nanorobots grown from Justin Timberlake's stem cells are intriguing. They're really not my area of expertise. But we've got a new partner here at the firm who I know can help you out.
Oh, hey, Bill. No, it's not an inconvenient time. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that was a good one. Trust me.
Of course, we'll miss him in the daily brainstorming meetings. He's always been an innovator, really inspiring all of us to think creatively about the future. And we'll be the first to give credit where credit is due.
Oh, absolutely. Microsoft Bob, his idea, all his.
Like I said, we've been planning for this. But he's still Bill, and we'll miss seeing him in the hallway every day. Hey, buddy, see you tomorrow at the board meeting.
Markets remained steady as Bill Gates completed his historic last full day at Microsoft. Personal note, all of us here at NBC News will miss reporting every night on this brilliant, powerful, let's face it, sexy and good-looking leader of men and women who just doesn't believe in paying more than $7 for a haircut. I'm Brian Williams in New York. Good night.
You want me to say my line again? How many times are we going to use the same joke?
We think it's kind of funny. We're going to do it just a couple times. We may not use it, we may use it.
But then if you don't use it, what happens? We need more than 1 gigabyte for the software. When I wrote software, it worked in a few K. Every byte mattered. Well, geez, I don't know why you have so many developers. Oh, for all the features, tell him, please help me. Oh, okay. I'm not so impressed with this group.
Yeah, concerning the behavioral complexities of the Anopheles mosquito. Bill? Can we focus here?
This guy's focus. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, shouldn't I? When I put me cross.
Well, we had fun making that, but I'm sure it'll be a fun and busy day and no challenge keeping my time busy, partly because the period ahead of us in terms of the role of software is even more exciting than the past. And in fact, I think people are vastly underestimating the advances that will take place and the central role that will play, not just in the sciences, but in all types of endeavors, in different types of jobs, and in even our activities outside of work. It really goes back to the early days of the microprocessor. At that time, the 1970s, computers were very few in number and very, very expensive. And when you thought about them, you thought about something that only governments or big companies could buy, and they would track data about you and might send you a bill that was wrong, and you stapled the punch card, you might mess up the machine somehow. So it was viewed as not really for the individual. Now, personal computing, which started in the 70s, changed that. And the dream there was to build the best tool to leverage our creativity and to let us communicate that we'd ever had. Something that was completely open-ended in our ability to model and try things. And an important element of that was the creation of a big software industry. And so Microsoft created a platform, starting with BASIC and then MS-DOS and Windows, to let other companies come in with their expertise and write software packages. But there was a heroic assumption there, which was that we needed to get millions of these machines in use so that it would be economic for companies to spend tens of millions developing software and yet be able to offer that for only $100 or less, and yet be able to fund their R&D and the success model to keep making that software better and better. And as we achieved that, it became a virtuous cycle. The more machines that got out, the more demand there was for software, and therefore the more opportunity for new software companies to come in and do a diverse set of things. And that really got going in the 1980s. In the 1990s, we got enough power to do graphical interface. In the late 90s, we got the internet, which was connecting everything together, and tools that let that become a platform, not just for publishing, but for all types of transactions, literally turning the internet itself into a way that software could call other software and becoming an underpinning for digital commerce and really the revolution of a broad set of activities. So where are we today? Well, we have over 1 billion personal computers that are in use. We have about 2 billion cell phones that are in use today. We have about 300 million people connected up with broadband connections. It's interesting how global that is. China just recently passed the United States to become the country with the most broadband connections. It's not like the U.S. is ever going to catch up. You know, they've got more people. They're going to have more than we have people within about 3 years. So it really is a very big and diverse marketplace, and a marketplace that's making the world a smaller place. The ability to do collaborative R&D, whether it's within a company or across company boundaries, globally, in any area, digital product design or cars or any physical good is more done on the computer and tried out there before you have to physically do anything. And that ability to delegate work and collaborate around things, these digital approaches, modeling together with the internet fabric, let us do things in very different ways. Now, part of the reason we were able to come so far is that the hardware and the software have both been improving very rapidly. At the hardware level, it goes back to Gordon Moore's prediction, even in the 60s, that we double the number of transistors every couple of years. Exponential improvement, not seen in other parts of the economy. We have exponential improvement in our storage capacity, and that too will continue out in the future. We have exponential improvement in our bandwidth, how many bits per second we can send across an optic fiber. We have things that go beyond just quantitative improvement, really create a qualitative difference. For example, the ability to represent a 3D scene on the screen. That's not today much part of the user interface at all. It is in games, but not in other areas, because it's not rich enough, they're not easy to build, we can't refresh the screen enough. That type of virtual map, like Virtual Earth, or the different mapping products, that does it in 3D, so you can walk down the street and then point to a building, go in, see what's going on there. That will be standard stuff. You'll just take that for granted. The idea that even your metaphor of how you find information and navigate will be including three-dimensional interfaces, that once we have the speed and capability and development platform for it, people will wonder how they got by without it. One of the biggest qualitative changes will be the way we interact with these devices. Overwhelmingly, it's been the keyboard and the mouse, and those are great things. They're not going to be eliminated, but they'll be complemented by about 5 additional ways of interacting, which I broadly call natural user interface. One of those is simply the touch screen, the ability to point to things and move them around, very natural thing. A second would be the pen, where you can point, but you can also ink, so you can look at email, write a note on it, send to somebody, look at an article, circle something, send that off to someone. And this would be a device that, once it's cheap enough, small enough, light enough, that would be preferable for reading. You wouldn't want paper textbooks, you'd want this device. In fact, there's a lot of schools, including one that my daughter goes to, where they all have tablet computers today, and they're already learning, both for high school and for universities, how you change the curriculum once you have that kind of tool. We look at what's happened with encyclopedias, where the print-based encyclopedia that I got to read when I was young is so inferior now to the online things like Encarta or Wikipedia, not just in depth, but in having animation and cross-links and images and movies and things that really bring the subject to life, the digital form is superior. And so as we can take and have a pen, that's another way of interaction, including ink recognition. Speech recognition, very important. It's been a problem that computer science has worked on for a long time, and now Microsoft has made big bets there, and finally it's getting to the quality that it will be mainstream. On your mobile phone, we have a piece of software called Tell Me that you just talk and ask for what's nearby, or what's the news you want, or to connect up to a friend. No need for phone numbers or having to use a little keyboard, just speak the way that you would naturally. And once that works well, people say, of course, that is the way it should work. Another piece of natural interface is using cheap cameras and doing visual recognition. Who's walked into the room? What gestures are they making? We apply this in a number of ways. We apply it looking into a room, but also we can put it into a table or a desk, and that's called Microsoft Surface. We can see when you point, when you put objects on it. It can be horizontal or it can be vertical. Vertical would be your whiteboard, or the mirror at home won't be a mirror, it'll be a device you can project reflections or any enhancement that you might find interesting. So it will be pervasive to interact with information. If you want to look at a project and blow up, look at the milestones, look at what's going on with sales trends, you'll just walk up to your whiteboard, pick things out, move them around. And if you want one of those parts of that screen to be telepresence, some video from somebody remotely or a group of people, that will just be commonplace. So we'll blow open the whole idea of how you do communication. And so natural interface will get built in to the operating system. And people who do applications will have a very nice abstract way that they can take advantage of those services. And they won't have to do that in their own application. The very way we think about the platform will be broader, because instead of running on one device, it'll work on your behalf across many devices. So if you update your schedule or change some files, any phone that you have, any PC, when you're in the car, when you're in front of your TV set, your personal preferences, the information you care about, the shows you like to watch, those things will be available there. Even if you borrow a device, as soon as you authenticate, you'll have access to that information stored in the internet, we sometimes say the cloud. That'll make it easy to work with different devices. And so it won't be just the one thing you're having to move that information around. So we take this and we apply it to the various types of activity. How will they change? Well, for the person who works in an office, they basically have been starved of information. Their ability to track customers, simulate things, try out new designs, look for trends, it's not been easy. They've had pieces of paper where if the number is surprisingly large or small, what do? They circle it, call somebody. You should just be able to point to it and see it by time, by product, by salesperson, and really dive into it. And then when you finally get to the point where you're seeing there's something good or bad going on, you can take that, annotate that, share that with a colleague who may be somewhere else. These are very basic things to gain understanding about what decisions should be made, what marketing approaches, what product design should take place. And people don't even realize today in terms of how they go to meetings or work with paper or look in and dive into information or resource allocations, how information starved they are. And so we can make them far more effective. We took modest steps in that in the 1990s with things like office productivity software and a little bit of browsing. In the next decade, we'll take that to a level where things like collaboration and business intelligence and the ability to model aspects of your business, try things out, really see those patterns, will become available even to the typical office worker. So a great deal more empowerment at that level. Now, for somebody like a student, there's some interesting things going on where the world's best lectures are all being put out on the internet, largely for free. The ability to accredit yourself to prove that you have knowledge. There are people with high reputation that are putting out tests that you can take there. And so you take education, you can unbundle it into the lecture piece, the study group piece, and this accreditation piece. And those aren't necessarily provided in the same way by the same institution. You have just a breadth of choices there. Already today, I go up, I'm taking a nice solid state physics course that somebody who went to MIT to get that course paid a lot of money, but today it's available for anyone. So education will change. Entertainment today, a lot of that's TV, which is done on a broadcast basis. It's not personalized, it's not interactive. If you watch something like the Olympics, you have various events you're interested in. If you see something, you'd like to see more about it. Maybe other people don't develop that same interest. Your TV set should respond to you in that way. Even the ads should be personalized, and if you have an interest in more information, they should interact to provide that for you. Across any genre, sports, news, educational shows, game shows, this ability to take TV over the internet is a fairly obvious thing that now is starting to happen. In the United States, we have close to 1 million people who receive their TV through AT&T over the internet, and that will become the standard way that it's done. In some ways, things in the video game online world are more predictive, of what TV watching will be like, where you can talk to your friends and try new things and take things in a different direction, because of course that today is delivered over the internet. Things like organizing memories that are very hard, even as photos have gone to digital form, taking all the different artifacts about, say, a kid growing up and organizing those and being able to view them or review them. It's still very difficult. But as we get better sensors, better software, that will be something that's commonplace because it's an application. Once you make it easy, people are very interested in it. Even the very idea of how we match buyers and sellers, the digital systems that help make that have less friction, those are not nearly as sophisticated as they can become. So you take the very mechanism of the capitalistic market and make it more effective. Make community reputation, make the ability to find out what somebody's done or how a product has worked in the past, make the online world one where buyers are far more informed. The number of choices they can look at, the amount of evidence they can look at is smarter, and the efficiency, the cost, the overhead of somebody presenting a superior product can be extremely low. And this type of innovation in the economy, which is actually accelerating, is a very hard thing to model, but certainly something of great importance that I think people are vastly, vastly underestimating because they just don't know in the domain of software the level of richness we're getting to. Now, part of the reason for this great progress is the combination of commercial investment, people like Microsoft who spend over $6 billion a year, and the work at the university level. And it's really both working in concert that has driven things forward. You see that in the other sciences. Biology as well has benefited from that dual investment in innovation. Sometimes some things are very basic, done more at the university. Sometimes things are more larger scale, more complex, done more commercially. But most things actually involve aspects of both. I felt very excited when Microsoft got successful enough that we were able to create a research group and make sure that not only it had great people, but that those people were reaching out to universities and collaborating, finding out the great work going on, because there's such a diverse set of ideas, different approaches being tried, and that is part of the strength, particularly of the U.S. university system. The top U.S. universities are really incredible in keeping that strong, keeping it healthy in terms of the great students, the amount of research money. That is something that's very important to the entire industry because it has been such a source of innovation. Now in software we have very tough problems that we need more breakthroughs on. The ability to prove software correct so that we can say that when we have a medical record that nobody can access that. The ability to prove that something's secure so that as very critical things are going online that we see that certain things can't be tampered with. The way we take all this hardware power and build redundancy to make things work very well. For IT people, we need to get them out of the business of thinking of which file is where and which application is running where. We just have a pool of resources either in their data center or in our data center, and we automatically run those things and deal with any hardware failure or resource limitation is actually just automatically dealt with, so their work is at a higher level and not babysitting these individual parameters or programs or load balancing type things. We need to revolutionize the way programming is done, so it's much higher level. We need to take these IT tasks and make those higher level. And that's where there are these wonderful collaborations with ambitious ideas about how research groups and universities can tackle these problems. Now, at this university, one of the themes that has been adopted is that this applies not just to computer science, but to the science as a whole. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you take astronomy, it's no longer being the person who was there at midnight who happened to see something cool happen and you write a paper and you're a great astronomer. Today it's more about the vast amounts of data that's been gathered over time in different wavelengths and ways, and stating things about systems that only can be verified by looking at that data and patterns in that data. Very, very interesting challenge in terms of the kind of software that needs to be developed there. Biology is even more extreme in terms of the amount of data and the context of not just genomic data, but full-blown systems data as well. And so we need to have our best software people throughout the world and these domain experts come together, develop modeling environments, rich runtimes, and so the people who are the domain experts, say you know how clouds form, well, you should be able to state that and then plug that in to see what the implications are. You shouldn't have to be handed a programming manual and start writing lines of code to implement what you have in mind. And so these are very rich systems that need some in-depth architecture. I wanted to show just one example of that. This one happens to be some brain research that we're doing with a professor at Harvard, who's Jeff Lichtman. Let's go ahead and look at a little video. He'll describe the challenge that he's taking on, and then I'll show how software can help with that.
I'd like to tell you today about an exciting collaboration that's just starting up between me and several of my colleagues in the Center for Brain Science at Harvard University, and another group at Harvard University in the Initiative for Innovative Computing with Microsoft. We know less about our brains, actually, than any other part of our body, and I would even go farther than that. I would say we know less about our brains than anything that human beings know about. It's that mysterious. For us to understand many disease processes and the way the normal brain works, we really need a wiring diagram of a brain. You would need a hard disk that is approximately 1 million petabytes. Many of you don't know what a petabyte is, I bet. A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. And a terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. So one human brain requires 1,000 billion gigabyte hard disks. So we're going to start even smaller than that and look at a little cubic millimeter of a mouse brain. That's about a petabyte of data. That's almost manageable today, and we've built a radically new kind of microtome to shave off one layer after another in little volumes like that, put them on tape, and then image them. And we were very pleased that Microsoft already has developed several tools that are really wonderful to get us started.
So I've got the software that it refers to, which is called HD View, and I'll just give you a quick sense of how rich visualization is important to do this science. You want to take a piece of image data like this and let people navigate, very rapidly and look at different things and try it out. We can go through and look at different slices, zoom in and zoom out at different levels. But we also want to see it in kind of a 3D view. So here we see a set of slices stacked on their side. We can look at one in particular at a time and then just decide we want to go up and down and see, okay, how are things changing there? So visualization is important, but also we want to take this data and make it accessible for pattern matching. Deep software that will actually figure out what types of neurons, what the connection from one to another is, and be able to do comparisons so if you get multiple mouse brains, you can see those changes over time. Here we've taken the image database that we've gotten and applied an algorithm to find boundaries And then those boundaries, we apply an algorithm to go through multiple layers, and then we map those into what these connections are. And we're trying out different algorithms for this. But it's really the performance here, being able to map this onto these huge parallel computers that is extremely difficult. And the goal is quite simple. It's to have the domain expert in the brain be able to state their theories, state their ideas about how things work, and try them out against the system without them having to write a single line of code. That's an ambitious goal, but it's exactly the kind of thing that we need to take a number of areas and write very rich runtimes to achieve. As we pursue these things, obviously we want to not only have universities, but students at a very young age, students in any departments, get at the software. Making it so during the time you're a student, you have access to all the different tools. That's something quite important to us. And so just this week we expanded quite dramatically the ability of students to just get free software and download it. We actually had that through relationships with universities, but it tended not to be easy to get at outside of a few departments or different institutions. And we just didn't have that for high school students. And thinking back to the fact that Paul Allen and I did our work, our insight came in high school, we'd like people to have tools and connections to these large computing platforms, even at a fairly young age and across many different domains. So there's a lot of creativity that has to be applied to draw people in. If we look at programming contests now, we can see huge levels of participation. We have one called Imagine Cup with 100,000 entries last year. We'll have 150,000 this year. Again, quite global. The US isn't too far behind India and Brazil, and actually a little bit ahead of China in terms of the number of people who are participating in these things. And the quality of some of these things of the submissions that get made in these contests is really phenomenal. It's a good example of this thing where I said accreditation can be separated from other things. If you go online and you compete and win one of these contests, there are a variety of companies, including Microsoft, that will say, look, we've never met you, we want to hire you because you're good at this particular skill set. So it almost bypasses the sort of normal credential system, and yet anyone with a broadband connection can have access to that. The last topic I want to touch on is, with all these rapid innovations, material science, agricultural science, medical science, entertainment, the quality of the video games, enhanced commercialism, we should really not just focus on what these breakthroughs mean for the richest 2 billion of the 6 billion on the planet. I think it's worthwhile to also focus on what it means for that middle 2 billion or the poorest 2 billion. Now, somebody might say, well, geez, as they get richer, they'll buy these things, or is it just as simple? Why don't we make cheaper personal computers? What if we could make a $1 personal computer? Well, the answer is that is of no value at all to the poorest 2 billion. They don't have electricity. They don't have a teacher. They don't have textbooks. They don't have a network connection. And so there's projects where people have gone out and put those things in, and they're not maintained, they're not used. It takes some really brilliant thinking to take these advances and think through how they can be made relevant. And there's wonderful examples of this taking place. For example, some that our India lab, who's had access, what they call the bottom of the pyramid, this bottom 2 billion, it's been a real theme of that lab. They've actually realized that DVD players that can be carried in and battery operated are about as high tech as you need in order to take things like farmers and show them best practices. So what they do in a district is they have a contest of farmers adopting best practices. They go in and film the ones who do it well. So it's kind of like American Idol, except this is about not starving. But the level of interest and the desire to be the one that gets picked to be videoed in these new practices is just phenomenal. And what we've seen is that where we use this DVD technology, carry in the TV set and the DVD player, and show these smallholders who have low farms, these new practices, the adoption rate is 3 times what it was when we weren't using this approach, where we weren't spreading best practices by having them listen to other farmers talk about how you do it and where it goes. We're doing a similar thing with Digital Study Hall, where we take the best teachers and video them, make sure the right ones are picked, and let other teachers either learn from that or use that as part of that teaching experience. And so whether it's microfinance, and getting transaction costs down through the cell phone, or health records where some type of diagnostic things can be done through a cell phone and not require the wired or complicated infrastructure, there are ways that with a little bit of effort, these things can have a huge impact on where it's needed the most. The market signals are not there. If it was true, these people's needs would map into economic demand and the right things would happen. But we can see in something like malaria that kills over 1 million a year, less than 10% as much is spent on malaria as is spent on baldness. Malaria kills 1 million people a year. Baldness hasn't killed anyone yet. But boy, there's some of those top 2 billion, they really want that to happen. And so you see these disparities where only by creating recognition, reward systems, awareness, can you make sure that the innovation isn't very disproportionately only beneficial to a small subset. Speaking for myself, I went through the amount of college education I had, not full 4 years, but and I had no awareness of the conditions that the poorest were living in. I had no sense of that at all, and it was literally about 15 years later when I heard about a disease called rotavirus that kills 500,000 children a year. And I said, no, that's not possible. There's a disease I've never heard of that kills 500,000 children a year. And in fact, it was a disease that almost no effort was going into. That's a good news story now, 7 years after substantial investments by some partners and the foundation. That is a vaccine that will go out and be used very broadly. And so it'll save those lives. And that has a huge impact in terms of reducing population growth and making it possible to get into the virtuous cycle of nutrition, education, job creation, good governance that we've seen, fortunately, in most of the world. But there's parts of the world that unless we do some things, you don't get the key factors that create that environment that things really come together. I have to say this is another area I'm optimistic. And I talk, whether it's students or businesses, about some of these ideas of getting the exposure and getting the innovators to think about solutions that apply to these areas. I see a very positive reaction. In fact, if we just took universities and made sure people were exposed as part of their education, we just took businesses that had the average business do as well as the best are doing today, whether it's food companies, pharma companies, cell phone companies, technology companies, that would make a dramatic difference. And so when I say I think technology will do wonderful things, I mean at all 3 tiers and therefore encompassing all 6 billion people. And so that's another part of why I'm so excited about the role that software can play in the kind of entrepreneurialism, new thinking, innovation, particularly those of you here who are young and just thinking through your new ideas and how you're going to change things. It's a wonderful time to be doing that, and I look forward to seeing the great things you can do. Thank you.